So you might look at the title of this video and think, empathy for liars? Why would we have empathy for liars? And what I would say to you is that if you do not have empathy for someone who's lied to you, they haven't lied to you enough just yet. Allow me to explain. Now, when somebody first lies to us, and it's the first time that we've discovered that they will be less than honest, we're going to feel some sort of combination of hurt and anger. Now, the level of hurt or anger is going to depend upon how difficult it was to extract the truth from them, and if we even believe what the truth they're telling us is now. In other words, if they've already lied to us and then you've had to press them for more information and they tell you a second story and a third story, why should we believe the fourth story is the final thing? So you're going to have some sort of combination of anger, hurt, and you're going to express that in any manner of ways. Now, generally speaking, when someone gets caught in a lie, especially when it's the first lie, that, in the friendship, relationship, whatever it is, what are they going to do? They're going to promise to never do it again, right? Okay, I think that this is pretty much universal. If you are going to forgive them and say, let's try to move on and rebuild the trust, the person that lied is going to say, I promise to never do that again. And they may have blamed you for the original lie. And you may have said, just tell me the truth. I can handle the truth, just don't lie to me. Give me the opportunity to choose for myself if what you're saying happened is okay for me. And they may promise to do that. Now, but they don't. They don't keep the promise. They continue to lie. So what's going to happen? Well, you're going to flip back and forth between hurt and anger, because the second time and even the third time, there's a couple of things that's going to crop up. Now, you're starting to question yourself and wonder, why am I forgiving this person? Why am I allowing this? What is the weak spot in me, right? Now, if you're in a relationship, that weak spot could be as simple as you've got kids or there's financial issues where you really can't make too big of a fuss, and so you just kind of have to mind your P's and Q's and accept what you get. I understand that that's going to happen to a lot of people. But over time, especially if they are likely to blame you for the lies, your feelings about it will harden and begin to change to the point where you don't believe anything that they say. And remember, you haven't reached the empathy part yet. You haven't reached the empathy part yet. You are now at the stage where they've lied to you so many times and about such innocuous things that they should have never lied to you about in the first place, things that had no reason to become an issue, but they've continued to either lie to you, lie about you, etc. Then you just become a brick wall. I don't believe anything that you're telling me. I don't have any trust in what you're saying. But you've only applied that forward in the friendship or forward in the relationship. So you've said, well, I'm not going to believe anything now that you're telling me. Anything that you tell me now, I'm really going to have a hard time believing, because you've been caught in so many lies and so many times where you've just rolled the story right off your tongue that everybody knows wasn't true. It didn't happen that way. So you become a brick wall. Now, the friendship, the relationship has been dissolved. It is dead. It is dead. And then they still continue to lie to you about things. And that is when you may have the epiphany of going, oh, this must really be terrible for this person. It must feel awful to be the person who is so afraid of the truth that even in the context of a relationship having been dead and buried, that they still feel that they need to continue to lie to you about things that are so innocuous and so just not worthy of lying to anybody about. You create negative karma for yourself when you lie to somebody. And you may just have the epiphany as the person who's been lied to, but you know what? You have empathy for them now. Empathy, sympathy, whatever emotion you want. The anger goes away. The hurt goes away. You recognize that you can't really be sure anything from day one to now what might have been true about what they've told you, because you've seen them now. The mask is off, and you've seen the things that they're willing to lie to you about and lie to other people about, and you realize what you were dealing with. And what you were dealing with was somebody that is incredibly, incredibly wounded. Most likely somebody that either got in trouble in their younger years, right? By either telling the truth and it backfiring on them. That can happen. Or maybe they told a lie and they created a trauma bond with lying from that, and they've just never stopped, and they've just continued to, continue to have that pattern. But when you first meet somebody, everybody's putting their best foot forward. And, we all want to believe the other person's stories, right? When we get together in relationships, we all have a story about how things went. Generally speaking, you're trying to build trust with that person, so you're going to believe what they said. Now, the interesting thing about this is that sometimes what somebody will do is they will be so afraid to be exposed for telling a lie in one area that they will expose themselves in another completely unrelated area. So maybe they are afraid that they're going to get caught that they took somebody's lunch money, and to make up for that, they will expose themselves for having run a red light. You see what I'm saying? And when you see behavior like that as the person who has been lied to, it's very freeing. It's very freeing because at that point you recognize this wasn't about me. This wasn't about me. Now, it could have been, and especially in my case, it could have been that the lesson was I needed to learn how to have empathy for someone who is suffering like that. And they are suffering. Someone who is completely incapable of telling the truth of just the most simple, basic things is suffering inside. There's a reason for that. And because of that, because of the realization that I had over time, I've actually developed empathy for this person because it must be a terrible way to feel. Their reaction, in my case, their reaction to being caught lying was anger and more lies. And the more that I would inquire as to what the truth was, there'd be even more anger and deeper lies. They would not want to at any point say, that's not really what happened. Here's what happened. They just built more lies on top of more lies. And it's gotten to the point where I've realized that it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me. It wasn't for any of the reasons. Because now, all of the reasons that I was told that I was being lied to in the past, they no longer exist. And I wonder if this same thing has happened to you. Maybe somebody has lied to you over the course of a friendship or a relationship, and all of the reasons they gave for lying to you no longer exist, but they continue to lie. It's not about you. And that is one of the most difficult, hardest lessons that you will have to learn, because there is that space of time. There is that space of time where before you have seen just what level they will lie to, you still want to trust them and still want to believe them. And so they will blame you and they will say, well, you're this, you're that, you're all of these things. And you will acquire some pretty significant self-doubt if you let those words in. It can have huge effects on how you communicate with people, what you do in your life, things that maybe you're very, very confident at, that you might start to take a back seat to yourself because of the words that they've used. And unfortunately, the only way to get to the point where you have empathy for them and you realize it wasn't about you, unfortunately, the only way to get to that point is to still continue to invest hope that they will tell you the truth about things. And then once you see that under no circumstances that they are going to tell you the truth, at that point, that is when you will realize this is their trauma. This is about them and only them, and it never had anything to do with you. And in fact, their anger towards you is most likely because maybe you're only the first person that has ever been able to really see right through them. You might find these people rotate friend groups. And what I mean is that they may have a group of friends or family members that when you meet them, they're estranged from them, or maybe they become estranged from them during the relationship. And then when the relationship is over, they will go back to those people because now they have a new story to tell, right? Now you're the new story to tell. We all have our stories to tell, and only advice I can give you there in relationship is when you meet somebody, if they have 7 other stories to tell, do not think you won't be story number 8. That's what I can tell you. But to wrap it up, it's very, very difficult to go through that because most people are going to want to cut the other person off long before it gets to the point where you have empathy for them. And I don't recommend going through it on purpose, but if you found yourself going through it on accident, don't be afraid to have the realization that it wasn't about you. It doesn't mean you were perfect, right? It doesn't mean you were perfect. And it definitely could have meant that, your desire for truth was a constant trigger for them. They may tell people that you berated them, that you were a bully. In reality, all you were trying to do was get them to be honest with you about things that they were lying about. That's not berating, that's not bullying somebody, unless it gets to the point where it is now. If you realize that somebody is going to constantly and consistently lie to you, no matter what, and that it is their trauma and has nothing to do with you, at that point, you're released. Absolutely released. You don't have to say, you do not need to request that they tell you the truth about anything else because there's nothing left to believe anyway. There's nothing left to believe anyway at that point. Unless they go and they do the work and they get the help that they need and they're willing to come back at some point and admit some of the ways that they behaved, at that point, there's no sense in continuing to request that they tell you the truth or apologize for lying or explain the lying. At that point, just leave them be. It's not about you. It was always about them and their trauma. And it's sad. I've seen the anger up front and close, and I don't wish it on anybody. I honestly, truthfully, full heart, open heart, don't wish that pain on anybody because I've seen that pain. It's not pretty, and I can't imagine what those people go through to get to that point. So I have empathy for them, absolutely 100%.